Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hello, everybody. We are going to talk about coffee and microbes today. And you're going to be surprised at some of the things you're going to learn today because this was new information to me many years ago when I discovered that there are microbes in coffee that actually really can assist you. And one of the benefits of living as long as I have lived, where I have seen trends come and go, and I've gotten more solid in what I believe because I've watched so many things fall by the wayside. You know, life experience is the best teacher, and people will scare you to death with all of the info about which food is bad for you and which drink is bad for you. And I have watched all of this stuff come and go throughout my life. And it always circles back around. People will take out food and say it's horrible for you, and then comes back many years later and it's actually really good for you. And goodness gracious, I tell you what, it's something to watch and behold because it can drive you crazy trying to figure out what to eat because everything's bad for you. Sooner or later, they demonize just about every food. But I have always loved coffee. And I always got benefits from it. And I wondered why it seemed to I seem to do really well with it. And I don't drink a lot. I usually just have a cup in the morning. And it was always interesting to me because there was this big trend where coffee is really, really bad for you and everybody went to tea. And I love tea and I drink a lot of tea too. But I've always loved coffee and it's always been beneficial to me. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I found out why. It had so many benefits for me that I could actually feel within my body things, and I'll explain more about this in this podcast. I get so many benefits. I just couldn't believe that it could be so bad for me. And lo and behold, my own microbes plowed the road and showed me the understanding of why it's beneficial for me. And I have a philosophy. If my microbes love it, then so do I. If they like it, I love it. So leave it to my little microbes who ferment my coffee with these little microbes called Bacteroides. They grow like crazy. They ferment my fibers in the coffee that you can't see. They're microscopic. And together I want to explain to you a thing or two about how coffee works in your gut and the benefits that you can reap from drinking coffee. Now, like anything, you don't want to just rev up your immune system and your adrenal glands with drinking massive amounts of caffeine. So, I mean, I don't have a lot of coffee, but I do have 1 or 2 cups every day usually. Sometimes I'll have tea, but for the most part, I drink coffee every day. It's kind of like this little ritual thing that I do. I have one of those little little pots that you put on the stove that has the water. I think it's an Italian coffee pot, and I love the little ritual of making coffee. It's kind of my special morning thing. And it's interesting how this all works inside your body. And so what I discovered was that researchers in Germany found that microbes love the microscopic fibers in coffee. And you can't see them, but they're there. And as these microbes grow, they cover your intestinal wall and keep harmful pathogens from colonizing. They also lower the gut's pH to an acidity that causes most germs to die. And these little soluble fibers are food for bacteria. And they make up the beneficial Bacteroides microbes. And they experience up to 60% increase in growth from eating these little fibers. And soluble fibers are prebiotics. And let me explain to you what a prebiotic is. Prebiotics are every bit as important as probiotics. And what they are, they're basically like a fertilizer for your probiotics, for the bacteria in your gut. So it makes them grow and it makes them multiply. And when you have enough of the right kind of bacteria in your gut, you become a force to be reckoned with because then it can do its job. Bacteria works in numbers. So if it has enough of certain strains of bacteria in numbers, then it goes out and it kills pathogens. It colonizes you. It removes harmful yeast that can want to take over and colonize your gut. And it's a very important thing that you have enough in numbers of the right bacteria, because then it keeps your gut really, really healthy. It keeps you healthy. It helps you digest your food. It does so many things that we aren't aware of. And so having lots of prebiotics, and prebiotics can be found in many different things like fruits and vegetables, certain ones. And I have lists of these on my website. If you type in prebiotics, if you go to culturedfoodlife.com and you type in prebiotics, you'll see the blogs and the articles where I list them all. And it really helps you because a lot of these fibers in these, like for instance in coffee, these soluble fibers that are in coffee don't have calories. Your body can't, not for you anyway, because they can't digest them. And you don't get nutrients from it, but your bacteria does. So it grows and multiplies like crazy, increases by 60% of some of these good bacteria, and then it protects you and it helps you. And that's with many, many of the prebiotics that I talk about. We have different kinds, like, for instance, berries and bananas and nuts and seeds, and certain grains have them, and even some milk has them. They all have soluble fibers that help you grow and multiply your good bacteria. And guys, when that happens, it helps regulate your blood sugar. It helps your immune system be boosted. It helps you to make, for instance, if you don't have the right kind of bacteria in your gut, you can't absorb your B vitamins. And your B vitamins are crucial to your immune system and to help your adrenals to function. If you have seasonal allergies, if you're getting a cold and flu, if you're under stress, you need B vitamins because your body just uses them up like crazy when you're under stress. But if you don't have the right kind of bacteria in your gut, you can't absorb them. And so you get all kinds of deficiencies in your body. And one of those being chronic stress because you're not getting what you need. And one of the ways to increase this, inulin, which is a prebiotic, and you can find this in different this peels of different fruits and vegetables, but you can also get it in a powder form. I have seen it in sweet leaf stevia has it in the packages. They have inulin, and it increases your body's ability to absorb more nutrients, but it also makes your good bacteria grow like crazy. I sell a product called Prebio Plus, and it has a bunch of it in there. A lot of people are putting inulin, which is a prebiotic, in a lot of different supplements and stuff because it's so good for you. It's wonderful for those who are diabetic. It helps your good bacteria to grow and multiply, but it also helps you to regulate your immune system, your blood sugar, and it's the same. There's so many different prebiotics and soluble fiber, because there's two types of fibers, insoluble and soluble. Insoluble is the one that feeds your bacteria. So you want that. So you want to look around, your grocery store looking for these types of soluble fibers that will help you, because when you change your gut from the inside out, it changes everything. It's a wonderful thing that coffee has these prebiotic microscopic fibers because they improve your insulin sensitivity and they also help you absorb more calcium. And one of the things that I love the most is that it helps you convert some of the plant fibers that we eat into vitamin A, and much, much more. For instance, carrots have a lot of carotene in them, but if your body can't convert that into the usable nutrient that it needs to support your instance, your eyes, your skin, then you're getting nothing from the carrots. And so when you have these types of special bacteria in your gut, you're going to improve so many things across the board. And this is all going on inside of you, unbeknownst to you. You don't really know what's happening in your gut. And so that's one of the reasons I like to do these shows, because, when you have this knowledge, it's power. It helps you to understand that, maybe these foods can help me to grow my bacteria so that I can be healthier, so that I can have more vitamin A, that I can get more vitamin B in my diet, and I can get more calcium. And bacteria is everything. It's so important to so many functions. I just posted an article on my Facebook page, which is Donna Schwink's Cultured Food Life. And now they're really convinced that Parkinson is starting in the gut, the disease, the Parkinson, that people have messed up guts, and they're doing all kinds of incredible incredible research on it. And you should head over there and look at that, because if you struggle in any area of that, check your gut. Check what's going on inside your body, because there's so many functions going on all day long that you're unaware of. And when you take care of your gut, you take care of many of these diseases and things going on in your life that are causing you to break down and not get the nutrients you need and not get your body's ability to keep you well. And I love how the body works. I love that it's just this miraculous machine. And I was reading a book the other day. I think it was Brain Maker by David Perlmutter. And he's an MD. And he talked about coffee in his book. I loved this chapter on coffee. And he said there was a study in Finland which involved 1,409 people between the ages of 65 and 79. And they did this study for 21 years. And they found that those who drank moderate amounts of coffee had a 65% decrease of developing Alzheimer's. And this was compared to either low or non-coffee drinkers. And he goes on to say that research are finding extensive evidence on the protective qualities in coffee. And it all begins with the microbes in the gut and the coffee fibers that they ingest. They also talked about how the microbes can lower the risk of type 2 diabetes and strokes, Parkinson's disease, cancer, cardiovascular disease. And this was all in his book. It's really, really fascinating. And it does all of this by consuming coffee fibers, or the soluble fibers, in the brown liquid. And they use this as fuel to grow and multiply. And they shift the ratios of bacteria in the gut that are associated with a reduced risk for diabetes and obesity, and they reduce inflammation. And it's powerful to see some of these researchers and what they found. You have so many different types of bacteria in your gut. And depending on, your nationality, where you eat, how your environment is, how you live, it's going to determine how your bacteria functions. And they're finding more and more and more evidence that certain species, certain strains reduce disease and other ones increase it. I kind of found myself that drinking coffee always made me feel full and satisfied. And this was like for hours. I was always really happy in the morning with a cup of coffee. If I was hungry, I always had a cup and a half of coffee, and then I was full for a long time. And I never understood why that was. But researchers found that the prebiotics, soluble fibers in coffee, what they do is they form a gel in the gut, and that makes you feel full and satisfied. And it's so important to have lots of fiber in your diet. You can't digest it, but your bacteria digest the fiber, and it helps you to feel full, to feel nourished, but also it makes the good bacteria grow like crazy and flourish. And then when that flourishes, you flourish. So here's the deal. Okay, let's just for a minute imagine this. In your gut, you have about 3 pounds of bacteria. Now, about 1%, you have some yeast in there too. You have all different kinds of yeast and bacteria. 1% or less should be like candida yeast. And you need a little bit of candida in your body because it helps you digest heavy metals that your regular digestion can't handle. But you don't want to let that get out of control, because if you do, you get into all kinds of problems. But what keeps that in balance is bacteria. So if you have lots of healthy, good bacteria, then candida cannot grow and multiply. It's got to stay over in its side of your gut, where it can have its little place, but it never gets out of control. And what keeps that in check is good bacteria. And it's pretty well known that if you take an antibiotic, you're going to wipe out your gut bacteria, and candida is going to try to take over. And it's always a problem if you don't replenish that good bacteria in your gut quickly, because candida is very opportunist, and it will take over, and it wants to dominate, and then it gets into the bloodstream, and it causes all kinds of problems. And so you want lots and lots of good bacteria. And so having probiotics is important, but you need to feed those little bacterias that are in the probiotics that make them grow and multiply, and then everything is settled down. Everything works in a orchestrated concert in your gut for you, on your behalf. but you need to ingest these fibers, these soluble fibers that help your bacteria really be happy and grow. And I love coffee, so I love all this research. So it's one of my I know in the morning when I'm drinking it, and for years they told me it was bad, and I just kept drinking because I thought they were all crazy. Because I never thought it was bad. I thought it's just another fad that's coming out. And here's the deal: I love green tea. I love green tea. I drink it all the time. Matcha teas. I drink all different kinds of tea all day long. I love them. I think they are so good for you, and I'm a real advocate of that. I love that. I think that especially green tea has been very beneficial in my life. But I also felt that coffee was too. So microbes that are in your gut, which are estimated at over 35,000 distinct species, they're just, guys, they're like superheroes. They aid in your digestion. They create a barrier against pathogen in your gut. And then one of my favorite things that they do is they work like a detoxification machine by eliminating toxins all day long in your body. And we are bombarded with toxins. Like it's everywhere. It's in our food, it's in the air, it's in the things, in the plastics, and everywhere we go, they're everywhere. And our bodies are so smart. They handle it through the liver, but they also, 50% of the detoxification is done through the gut. So that's one of my favorite things that bacteria does, is that it helps us to stay healthy by getting rid of all these toxins in our environment that come into our body. And here's the really cool thing. When you eat cultured foods, probiotic cultured foods, what's really cool about that is they eliminate the toxins that are like on the vegetables. Even if you don't use organic vegetables and cultured vegetables, 99% of the chemicals and pesticides, they're removed through the process of fermentation. And that's due to the bacteria that is removing those things. Well, when you eat them, that removes them through you too. And the same with kefir, kombucha. It's really cool how it all works. And we've just really touched on a small amount of how powerful bacteria is in our body. And there's more and more research coming all the time of all the wonderful things that it does. So now that I know that microbes love my coffee, makes me love it more. And I think it's why I was so drawn to it for many years and wouldn't give it up. But I have found a lot more ways to enjoy coffee that includes things like kombucha. And we have all these recipes on our site. We have some really fun recipes. We have a coffee kombucha. If you're willing to try that, it is really fun to make. And we have a coffee water kefir and a few other things. And if you don't like the taste of coffee, we actually have some alternatives for you, like, faux coffees that are different. They taste like it, but they're not it. But this like coffee kombucha, I couldn't figure out. My daughter came up with this, and she kind of invented this for many, many years ago. And I couldn't figure out why coffee kombucha was so crazy bubbly. Well, now I know it was the fibers, the prebiotic fibers in the coffee that were making the bacteria grow like crazy in the kombucha. And because they produce a lot of carbonation. There was more carbonation in coffee kombucha than there was regular kombucha, but it was because of the microbes in the coffee that we didn't even know were there. We just loved the taste of it. So it was, that's a powerful combination, is coffee kombucha. It's fun to make. Go to my website at culturedfoodlife.com and type in coffee kombucha and you'll get the recipe for that. It's really fun. And then I think there's some other recipes too, water kefir, and I've got some other things on there too that are really fun things that you can try, that you can make, that you can help grow your microbes in ways that you possibly couldn't have imagined. I mean, I love experimenting with things, and my daughter's fantastic at experimenting with kombucha. We call her the Kombucha Queen. And we've had a lot of people who really love the coffee kombucha. But I just like regular coffee too. I have one of my favorite drinks to make, and this is something that I don't know if it's in my book or not. I think I might have put one in one of my books, but one of my favorite drinks is to take a cup of coffee, and I take the coffee and I brew it, and then I put it in a blender and I put ice in it, and then I take a cup of kefir and put that in, and then I take a few spoonfuls of cocoa powder, and I think usually I put stevia in it, and I blend it all up in the blender, and I drink this all the time because I love it. I love the flavor. I get a cup of kefir, I get my coffee, and there is something about that drink in the morning because when I'm super busy and I want something fast, that one holds me for forever. I love it. And I love the way that it separates. It will separate into like 2 layers, so it's really pretty. It's a really pretty drink. And I drink that all the time. Sometimes I'll put cinnamon in it. It just depends. It's a fun way to have iced coffee. I'll do it a lot in the summertime. And it's one of my favorite ways to have kefir and coffee together. So you can not only make coffee kombucha, but you can have coffee with your kefir, and you can have coffee water kefir. It's just, you're going to get a lot of good bacteria from it, guys. And it's, always beware, you don't want to overload on caffeine. And I often will have decaf too. Sometimes I have decaf, but I like it both ways. But it is a wonderful way to help your gut microbes grow. It's a nice way to keep you full too when you're busy, because I'm busy. I work a lot. In the morning, I don't have a lot of time to stop, and it'll be way past lunchtime before I realize it because I'm working. And it's a very nourishing thing to have something there that can, that I know that's taking care of my microbes. I love that. I mean, I think that as long as they're happy, I feel happy. So I love coffee, and you can't talk bad about it to me because I have always known that there was something good in it, even when everybody was bad mouthing it. So I love tea too. I think it's fantastic. I think you should do both. But if you are a coffee lover, rest assured that your gut loves the microbes in coffee, and it will help you to get rid of pathogens because it will keep them from lining the sides of your intestinal walls. It will help your blood sugars, as long as you don't add a bunch of sugar to it. I usually just have either milk or cream in my coffee is all I have. But it also 65% decrease what they found in Alzheimer's, that for those who drink a couple cups a day. I think that's a fantastic thing. And there's actually more research about that just lately. I heard it in the news too. So drink your coffee and love your microbes. And remember that everything that you eat or drink will feed those 35,000 species that amount to 100 trillion bacteria in your body. And when they're healthy, you usually are too. So I hope this helped you. I hope you learned a little bit, and I hope it made you feel good about having some coffee. So try coffee kombucha, coffee water kefir coffee, kefir with your coffee, or just have a plain cup of coffee, however you like, and you'll be feeding those microbes and helping your body keep you healthy. Have a great week, guys.